Okay, I have some amazing followers. One of my followers, who did not want to be named, has done a ton of research for me. But they didn't do it for me. They did it because they were tired of hearing the rhetoric coming from the far right. The rhetoric about how Carney hasn't done anything. So thanks to this person, I'm going to share a few facts. March 14th, 2025. First speech as Prime Minister, focused on one Canadian economy, unity and sovereignty, benchmarked his commitments to Canada as Prime Minister. April 1st, 2025, he cancelled the consumer carbon tax using an order of council. And then he instructed the CRA to send the spring rebate so households weren't left short. And he directed the Finance Department to design replacement clean tech supports for low and middle income families. April 14th, 2025, he outlined a comprehensive strategy to enhance the nation's defense capabilities, including the establishment of Borealis, which is the Bureau of Research, Engineering, and Advanced Leadership in Innovation and Science. On April 29th, 2025, Carney officially was elected as Prime Minister of Canada. Oh yeah, he wasn't even Prime Minister yet. May 10th, 2025, he expanded skilled trades training with up to $8,000 per apprentice, $15,000 per mid-career worker, and a $20 million tools and equipment stream for people entering the trades. Why? Because he knows Canada needs to build. May 13th, 2025, he reorganized a cabinet, adding a minister for artificial intelligence. He moved Anita Anand to foreign affairs and appointed Tim Hodgson to natural resources. Now, don't get me started on foreign affairs. That's a whole other video. On May 15th, 2025, he backed a large Alberta carbon capture build with about $16.5 billion in tax credits and financing and set Canadian content rules. He also signaled support for a West Coast export corridor subject to review. May 15th, 2025, confirmed a 10-year health framework worth about $200 billion, including transfers, program funding, and universal dental care, reaching 1.2 million people in the first phase. May 18th, 2025, he issued a House statement backing long-term security guarantees for Ukraine, plus ensuring Canadian training and kit flows continuing. And if anybody's asking, yes, I support Ukraine. Ukraine is the example that needs to be set. If we can't save Ukraine from Putin, he's going to take over anybody else he wants next. So Ukraine's sovereignty is Canada's sovereignty. May 18th, 2025, he started a 15% spending review targeting $6.35 billion in savings by 2028 through consultant cuts, IT rationalization, and program cleanup. Isn't that just like making things more efficient and less costly? Isn't that what we asked him to do? May 20th, 2025, enforced the national EV sales mandate, requiring automakers to reach 20% ZEV sales by 2026, scaling to 100% by 2035, paired with plant retooling and charging infrastructure support. Now I know a bunch of conservatives are going to be like, oh my God, it's an EV mandate. Just relax. A mandate is just a commitment to try. It's a commitment to try to do the best we can to try to remove gas-powered vehicles if it's possible. And since there are so many remote communities in Canada, the infrastructure needs to be built before that can happen. If you don't have a way of charging your electric vehicle, then you can't drive it. If by 2035 the infrastructure is not there, they're not going to rip your gas-powered cars out from underneath you and force you to buy an EV. It's a goal, a target, something we should all aspire to with the rate that climate change is destroying our country. But hold on, we're still in May. May 20th, 2025, launched Build Canada Homes with $25 billion in financing for developers and $1 billion in low-cost capital for affordable providers, aiming to double housing construction to $500,000 per year. May 25th, 2025, committed new defense dollars in the 2025-26 plan, moving Canada toward NATO's 2% of GDP, prioritizing Arctic surveillance and NORAD modernization. Because we all know of the threat of the Arctic Channel when shipping routes start to open up as the ice melts. Not to mention, we need to make friends with some people that can help us control that channel. Speaking of the Arctic, May 26th launched a 4-year, $30.9 billion sovereignty package in funding Arctic defense drones, radar, icebreaker submarines, and northern indigenous infrastructure with phased contracting from fall of 2025. May 26, 2025, sovereignty package launch linked Arctic security and Canadian industry together. June 1st, 2025, cut the bottom income tax rate from 15% to 14% and removed GST for first-time homebuyers, providing about $840 average relief for a two-income household with multi-year fiscal cost in the low billions. From June 1st to August 15th, maintained high-level channels with President Zelensky, NATO, and G7 aligning Canadian training, lethal aid maintenance, and reconstruction finance. On June 5th, 2025, he passed the One Canadian Economy Act Bill C5, creating one project, one review rules and easing interprovincial barriers for trucking, energy transmission, alcohol, aid professional credentials. Yes, I know there's been some controversy around Bill C5, and there are parts of it that I don't agree with. That's another video. June 9th, 2025, announced a new plan to rebuild, rearm, and reinvest in the Canadian Armed Forces, outlining the government's strategic vision to modernize defense, strengthen sovereignty, and prepare Canada for the technologies shaping global security. Do you see what's happening in the United States with their military? Their National Guard is picking up trash on the streets of D.C. Mark Carney gave all of our military a raise. Canada wants members in its military that want to be there, not forced to be there. On June 12, 2025, he hosted the G7 leaders in Kananaskis, securing language on Ukraine's security, economic resilience, and climate transition. On June 12th, the G7 urged unity against authoritarian pressure. June 22nd, he formed a Canada, United Kingdom Defence and Trade Working Group aligning sanctions, intelligence, and ratification of UK entry into CPTPP, which is basically the Trans-Pacific Partnership. On June 30th, we announced Canada would recognize a Palestinian state at the September General Assembly, paired with a freeze on new lethal export permits to Israel, pending review. I also have issues with that, but that's a whole other video. July 15th, he created a $5 billion Tracia Diversification Corridor Fund for ports, rail, and trade finance, requiring provincial cost sharing. On July 16th, he imposed a 50% tariff on non-FTA steel and set safeguard quotas under the Custom Tariff Act to defend domestic capacity. July 18th, he protected the softwood sector with $700 million in loan guarantees, $500 million for diversification, and $50 million for worker reskilling, supporting over 6,000 jobs. On July 21st, premiers warned Canada that they would not be bullied on tariffs. July 21st, coordinated tariff retaliation and dispute actions with the EU and Japan, while confirming Canada would wind down the digital services tax. Sometimes when you're dealing with a dictator who can't seem to make up his mind, letting up on a little law sometimes just keeps them quiet for a while. It's like giving a kid a candy bar after school to keep them quiet. On August 5th, the science and the trades, the funding for those were now linked to national pride and self-reliance. August 5th, 2025, he invested $1.3 million for more than 9,700 researchers through the NSERC, the CIHR, and the SSHRC, with emphasis on AI, biotech, clean energy, and physics labs. On August 8th, 2025, he raised the Canadian Armed Forces pay by 8% for colonels and above, 13% for lieutenant colonels and below, and about 20% for recruits, retroactive to April 1st, 2025. And then on August 26, 2025, there was a soft announcement in Germany about Carney telling the reporter about the $500 billion of procurement that Canada will release for projects. And while all this is going on, meanwhile, we got this asshole making all sorts of claims that Carney hasn't done anything, rage baiting every Canadian he possibly can. Immigration is the problem. Youth unemployment is the problem. Mark Carney is the problem. Not good. Anyway, if someone tells you that Mark Carney hasn't done anything, show him this video.